Let's look at some examples of comparability, which is our third qualitative characteristic. So some of the ones I'll have to deal with throughout the asset values, depending on what the asset is. I'm going to use a property. But basically when we're valuing assets, we should either always use the original cost or the current market value. So let's take an example where we'll say, look, it really shouldn't chop and change methods from one period to the next. So let's take this shop here. Let's say this Harvey Norman owns this shop and they bought it in 1990 when property prices were much lower for $1 million. In the year 2000, the market value was $2 million. So this is the original cost. So we'll put that in red. Market value in green. 2010, the market value was $5 million. And then because of COVID, property market cooled a little bit. It was worth $4 million. How should we value that property? Well, we want to make it comparable. So whatever we do, we want to always do the same thing. So what about if we did this? In 1990, we listed it at original cost. Year 2000, we did the market value. 2010, we did market value. In 2020, we went back to original cost. That is no good. I cannot compare this figure over time because I've changed methods. Okay, I went from original cost to market value back to original cost. No good. What about if I did this? Original cost there, market value there, market value there, but then because this figure went down, I don't want that. That looks bad, so I'm going to keep it at 5 million. That is no good. If your method has been to go from the cost to the market value, well, you should have kept up the market value here and gone with 4 million there. So that's no good either. What about this? We started with original cost. I mean, when we buy something, it has to be at its original cost, but then we say we're always going to value it at the market value. So in 2000, it was 2 million. 2010, it was 5 million. 2020, it was 4 million. Beautiful. Consistent method. We're saying once we buy it, we then value it at the market value. Very good. We can compare that figure over time. What about this one? We bought it for 1 million, and we always keep it at that. That seems like it's not very relevant, which is a different qualitative characteristic, but that is actually very comparable. I can compare that figure over time because it's always the same figure. So that would be okay too. My method there is I'm always valuing assets at their original cost. What about formatting of numbers? When preparing the reports, to make something comparable, we've got to have consistent formatting. So here's this building, and we'll say this property here in 1990, we listed it in millions. It was 1 million. 2000, we said it was 1,000 thousands, which is also a million. 2010, we just listed the number. And in 2020, we went back to this one. Is that okay? It's not. That just makes it really difficult. I mean, look, those numbers are all the same, by the way. So you could say that is comparable, but if I'm looking at that, that's really tricky to figure out. And in the real world, businesses do these things, but they stick with one. So they might always stick with, say, this one. We always value things in thousands. 1,000,000, which is a million. 1,000,000, 1,000,000, 1,000,000. Beautiful. That is now comparable. Another thing could also be with just sort of, you can see here with Harvey Norman, yeah, they always use thousands, right? This is from 2019 and 2020, and that's what they do. Nick Scali Furniture, same thing. Most businesses in Australia do tend to use this here. Okay, but we can see property valued in thousands, and that way it's comparable. Okay. All right, what about this one? We should also have consistent formatting. So let's say we did a balance sheet in 2016. We had the current assets on top and the non-current assets underneath. And then in 2020, we did it the other way. We put the non-current on top and the current underneath. Look, is that comparable? It is, but you're not making it easy for the user here. That's stupid. It's not incomparable. But I guess what we're saying is to make it more comparable, why don't you just keep it how it was? Look, the values are going to change, but we always keep the current assets on top. That's just the thing we do in accounting. And we can see here, this is Flight Centre's balance sheet from 2020 and 2019. And this is it from 2015 and 16. Set out the exact same, current assets on top. Not only that, they've basically put things in the same order: cash and equivalents, financial assets, trade and other receivables. Beautiful. Same with non-current assets, property, intangibles, etc. Very good. Another way we can have comparability or lack thereof is the length of financial reports. What about this? A business in 2017 did a 12-month period. Then they went to 2 half-yearly periods for 2018, January to June, July to December. Then they went back to a yearly period. Then they went to quarterly, Jan to March, April to June, etc. That's no good. It's really difficult to now compare. Am I doing better here than I was here? I mean, I could sit down and figure it out, but it shouldn't be that difficult. Things should be comparable, and one way you can do that is to keep consistent reporting lengths. So why don't we always do 6-month periods? 2017, Jan to December, that should say June, Jan to June, July to December. 2018, Jan to June, July to December, etc. Now I can compare results and I can actually see over time, well, two things. Sales seem to be higher in the second half of the year, most years, and they are going up, and so are my profits. So I went from 5 and 5 to 15 and 40. Good. That's now comparable.